evening, and thank you for joining us for the 2020 BSc Skills Workshop webinar series for high school students and parents and caregivers. My name is Dr. Joan Reed. I am President and Chair of the Biomedical Science Careers Program, BSCP, and Dean for Diversity and Inclusion at Harvard Medical School. Tonight is a special session for parents and caregivers to get information and ask any questions they may have as I help the students in their lives navigate their academic careers. The Skills Workshops webinar series was created to address the needs of underrepresented minority and disadvantaged high school students by providing concrete information on the skills needed for success. This is the third webinar in an 8-part series. Future session topics include community college pathways, finances and your education, interviewing skills, tips for resume and cover letter, and it will culminate in this session focusing on internships and summer opportunities. All previous webinars have been recorded and will be posted on the BSCP, Biomedical Science Careers Program, and DICP, Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Partnership websites in approximately 2 weeks after the live session. This program tonight is co-sponsored by the Harvard Medical School Office for Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Partnership and the Biomedical Science Careers Program. A few items and housekeeping items before we begin tonight's session. All lines are muted and the chat function is disabled. And you can communicate by the Q&A tab that you can see at the bottom of your webinar panel. Each participant will receive a supplemental packet of information emailed to the address in which you registered for this session by the end of the day on Friday. And there'll be a set of poll questions, very short, few questions at the end, and please stay on to complete those questions. And now to begin the program, I'd like to now introduce our moderator for this evening, Dr. Judith Sanford Harris, who is a retired student development counselor from the R.J. Murphy K-8 school. Dr. Sanford Harris has been a longtime panelist, planning committee member, and volunteer for both the skills workshops and the BSCP student conference. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Sanford Harris.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reed. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'd like to start by introducing our panelists to let you know who's with us tonight. And then I'll go back around and have each of them spend a few minutes talking about their organizations and their areas of expertise. We'll begin then by answering a few questions submitted ahead of time, followed by questions you submit in the Q&A tab. Please remember to submit short, clear questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. So we have a great panel for you this evening. We have Mr. Andrew Gallagher, the director of the Posse Foundation in Boston, Mr. Jonathan Hughes, associate director of college planning and education at the Mass Educational Financing Authority, Ms. Wendy Lindsay, senior director of the regional student program at the New England Board of Higher Education, Ms. Tammy Feyminade, founding director of college and career pathways at the Neighborhood House Charter School, and also a former assistant director of admissions at Dartmouth and MIT. And last but not least, Dr. Daryl Murray, director of the Undergraduate Scholarship Program in the Office of Intramural Training and Education at the National Institutes of Health. So now I'd like to have us start with Mr. Gallagher, Andrew Gallagher, and talk a little bit about what you do and what information you can share with our parents tonight.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on the panel. It's great to be here with everybody and to be talking about college admission. I know it's a bit of a challenging and in some ways puzzling time right now, and it's great to be talking about something like college admission and looking to the future altogether. I'm Andy Gallagher. I lead the Posse Foundation's Boston office. So the Posse Foundation is a national organization. We operate in 10 cities. And our goal is to change the face of leadership in America. So we are going into urban public schools, using our own college admission selection process to find really talented students who may be overlooked by a traditional college selection process. Selecting students to head off to some very selective institutions with a 4-year full tuition scholarship in a group of 10, a Posse, where our name comes from, to go succeed in school together. The foundation began in a real moment when a student in New York said he wouldn't have dropped out of college if he had his Posse with him after he dropped out of school after his first semester. In addition to identifying students, selecting them, and providing the scholarships, we provide time for students in their senior year of high school to prepare for college, to think about their success and leadership on campus. We provide mentorship on campus and support through their time on college, and a career program. Ultimately, we want leadership in all industries to reflect the rich diversity of this country. And so we have a career program where we have internships and opportunities at over 200 organizations across the country. When it comes to kind of biomedical sciences, we work with Mass General Hospital, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, Alnylam Pharmaceuticals, a whole host of organizations in that field. That's kind of the broad overview. We do now offer a STEM Posse program that particularly focuses on students who want to go into science, technology, engineering, and math fields. So out of Boston, we recruit 10 young women or non-binary folks every year to go to Bryn Mawr College, where they can kind of be in a cohort together, all working on STEM opportunities. So I think when it comes to tonight's program, we work very closely with 54 college partners in their admissions offices, their financial aid offices. We're looking at students in a holistic way and kind of pushing our partner colleges to also look, not just at their Posse candidates holistically, but to really consider overall who they're selecting, how they're identifying talented students, and how they're making their campuses more welcoming to people of all backgrounds, regardless of how they may arrive on campus. I think that's probably the broad overview for now. And if there are more questions about that, as we get into it, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. Jonathan Hughes from MIFA.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here virtually for you. I have been doing this, taking part in this event. I think it's only for the past 3 or 4 years, so it's probably twice that. I've probably been doing this for the past 7 or 8 years, but that's how it goes when you get a little bit older. But I'm from MIFA. I'm the Associate Director of College Planning and Education at MIFA. MIFA is the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority. And so we were created back in 1982 by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And what we were created to do, we're not-for-profit authority, and we were created to help Massachusetts families to plan, save, and pay for college. And we do this in a number of ways. If you were to go on our website right now, you would be able to find all sorts of tools and calculators and articles and pieces of information that would help you. This time of year, if I know some of you may be parents of seniors, you may have started to file your financial aid forms already. Some of you maybe who have younger children, maybe juniors or sophomores, might be wondering about financial aid. In fact, I think from some of your questions, you are wondering about it. So this is the time of year when folks are doing that. And what we would be doing in a normal year is going out to high schools, to businesses, to colleges, to any organization that would have us really, and to give our presentation on financial aid and what it is and how you can get it and how you apply for it, and how much is granted. We're doing that virtually now, of course, like everyone is doing everything virtually. So we have 4 webinars every week. So I think we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you have questions about the finer points of financial aid and how you pay for college and how you go about qualifying for grants and scholarships and things like that, I would urge you to go to mifa.org and seek out that information. I can answer questions on that today and will do so. In fact, I'll just say, since I know that some of you have questions on some of the very basics of financial aid, just to answer some of those questions off the bat, most families are eligible for some kind and will receive some level of financial aid. You don't have to be at the poverty line to qualify for it. There is about 186 billion in financial aid that was granted in the year 2018-19, and that's about where things are. So there's a lot of money granted in financial aid every year, and there's a process to go through that. So the last thing I will say to you is that this is a long process. So from applying to colleges, compiling your college list, getting your letters of recommendation, filing for financial aid, it's natural to not know what to do at times or to feel a little confused. I just want to point out that there are a lot of free resources available to help you through and to urge you to go and seek out any of those free resources like MIFA, and we can mention some. There's some other representatives here from them, but we can talk about them in the Q&A if you like. So good luck to you all, and it's a long process, but there is help available, and that's what MIFA is here for.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, Ms. Wendy Lindsay from the Regional Student Program at the New England Board of Higher Ed.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I work with the New England Board of Higher Education. It's based in Boston, but we're actually a regional organization. So we work with the 6 New England states. And I'm here tonight to tell you about one of our basic programs, which is the Regional Student Program, or Tuition Break, it's known as. And the program helps students afford to go to college out of state within New England. So for Massachusetts residents, they can go to a state college or university in one of the other 5 New England states, Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, or Vermont, and study programs that may not be offered to them in Massachusetts at the state colleges and universities. And while doing that, they'll save significantly on their out-of-state tuition bill. On average, they can save about $8,000 each year, and sometimes they can save as high as $13,000 a year. And there are a lot of programs to choose from. Programs are available in all areas of study. For you here tonight, you may be looking more at science fields. So there are several in that area, health and health sciences. For example, pharmacy is one of the programs. It's a 6-year program at University of Connecticut, and you save $13,000 in tuition for that program. So there are programs like that, specialized programs, and also just some basic programs like biology that some colleges are making available through the program. So there are a lot of opportunities. The program has been around since 1957, so it has a long track record. And it was started because the states didn't offer all programs for their residents. So this was a way for them to collaborate and share programs across state lines and help their residents access a more affordable college education out of state. In addition to the Regional Student Program, NEBI is involved, New England Board of Higher Education, or NEBI, is involved in other programs that are designed to help students. For example, we have an Open Educational Resources Initiative to help students access more affordable education materials and instead of expensive textbooks. We have some adult learner initiatives too. We have a guide to educate to the colleges and universities with a focus on services for adult learners. We also do a lot in terms of research too, policy and research. So I'll finish there for now, but I look forward to sharing more and answering any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, I'm going to go to Dr. Daryl Murray from the National Institutes of Health.
Hello and good evening for those on the East Coast. My name is Dr. Murray, as was mentioned early in the introduction. I hope that you can hear me. I just got to notice that my internet connection was jumpy, but I hope that you can hear me well. Okay. I work at the National Institutes of Health. It's become more popular, and we hear that much more now, of course, with Dr. Anthony Fauci being a part of the task force there, the coronavirus task force. But I work also at the National Institutes of Health and administer the NIH Undergraduate Scholarship Program. They're out of the Office of Intramural Training and Education. I'm actually going to put, I think that you guys can view the chat. I'm going to put the website there in the chat so you can go in and take a look around for the scholarship. But I specifically want to talk today about the Undergraduate Scholarship Program, or the UGSP as we call it. It's available to students who meet exceptional financial need criteria. Since it's public monies, those students must be citizens or permanent residents to qualify. There's a minimum GPA of 3.3, and the student must be a full-time student at a four-year university. I must say that over the past several years, many of the students who we have accepted have actually been community college transfer students into four-year universities. So just to make it clear that those students are eligible as well. So we select about 20 to 25 students a year, and those students who are selected are eligible to receive up to $20,000 a year in scholarship funding towards their education expenses. But along with that, when those students are awarded from their sophomore year up into their senior year, the year after, the period after they're awarded that summer, they also have the opportunity, or they're obligated to come to the NIH for a 10-week summer internship. And then after graduation, they're obligated to come and work at the NIH in our intramural research program 1 year for each year they are awarded. Many students will come immediately after their graduation and come as what we call a post-bac or post-baccalaureate and prepare for graduate school, medical school. The lion's share of these students will go into either biomedical research or medicine or healthcare, some other form of healthcare. We have some who go into nursing as well. But students can also defer that obligation of a year-long service to after they have completed their terminal educational training. For example, some students defer and come back and complete postdoc opportunities at the NIH. Students who are going into medicine will often complete their medical training and even fellowships and come back to the NIH after as clinical fellows. One of the primary goals of the program, of course, is to not only diminish the debt of those students who are selected, but it's to also capture those students as NIH faculty if possible. I'm going to stop there. I, again, appreciate this opportunity again to talk to parents and caregivers and look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murray. Our final speaker hasn't arrived yet. She's proctoring SAT exams, but she'll join us shortly. So in the meantime, we will go to some questions that were submitted earlier by some of you, and then we'll go to the Q&A after that. So one question that I think we'll send to Mr. Hughes is, are there differences when applying to private Ivy League and public institutions? I'm assuming this is for financial aid, but perhaps not.
Sure, yeah. Well, I can talk about the differences in terms of financial aid. And I think the biggest difference probably is that private colleges, especially ones with high sticker prices, including Ivy Leagues, probably give out a lot of their own institutional funds and may want more information from you as a family than some of the other colleges do. So just to let you know, when you're applying for financial aid to colleges, you're going to file a form called a Fafsa form, it stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And by filing that form, and that's going to go to every college that you're applying to if you want financial aid. So every college needs a FAFSA. In addition to that, some colleges might want more information from you because they don't want to use the federal sort of calculations to determine how much aid you're eligible for. They want to use their own because they're probably giving out a lot of institutional funds. So they may have another form that they want you to file called a CSS profile form. So just one of the main things we talk about, especially if you're not close to filing these forms yet, is when the time comes to make sure when you have the colleges that you want to apply to, that you know what forms the college needs. Everyone needs a FAFSA. In addition to that, will they need another financial aid form? Just find out what forms they need and when they need them so you can file by the deadlines. And then you really don't want to miss any deadlines. The other thing I would say is that you shouldn't necessarily take a school with a higher sticker price off of your list. Remember, if you have a higher sticker price, then you have more eligibility for financial aid usually. And it could be that some colleges that actually have a higher tuition and fee price may end up costing you less because you may receive more financial aid from that college. It doesn't always work out that way, but it does sometimes, and it's not necessarily all that rare. So I hope that helps to answer the question.
One question that piggybacks on what you were saying is, will FAFSA ask for the other parent's information?
So if by other, so I assume what you're talking about is in the case of a divorced or separated, parent situation. In that case, the FAFSA only wants information from the custodial parent, and the custodial parent is defined as the one that the student spends more than 6 months of the year with. A lot of times parents think it's who claims the child on taxes. It's not that. They're really asking you, who does the child spend more than 6 months of the year with? Could be one more day than 6 months of the year. That person is the custodial parent. If you can't work it out that way, then it goes to whoever contributes more than half of the child's monetary assistance throughout the year. So in that case, it would only be the custodial parent. And then if the custodial parent has remarried, then it would be the new spouse's information as well. The non-custodial parent does not fill out a FAFSA at all. Now, on that other form that I was talking about, the CSS profile, the colleges, they may ask. So if you're applying to a college that wants that other form, they may ask for it. But for the FAFSA, no. Only the parent that the student lives with more than 6 months of the year will have to put their information in. And if they're remarried, their new spouse.
And do you have to pay for college before or after you go?
Oh, yeah, good question. You have to pay while you're going. So you have to pay per semester. So the general kind of timeline is, and this is important too, you would file your applications and your financial aid applications at around the same time. You get your financial aid package in the early spring usually, and then you make your deposit. The college usually sends out a bill in the summer, and it's due in the beginning of the fall for the fall semester, and then again at the beginning of the spring for the spring semester. So financial aid will take some of that probably, and hopefully all of it, but if it doesn't, they need to be paid as you are moving through school. And then you apply again next year for financial aid. So you need to apply for financial aid every year as you go.
Thank you. There are some questions about finding the best college, helping my child apply. Jonathan, Mr. Hughes, would you like to tackle, no, I'm sorry, Andrew Gallagher. Would you like to tackle those from your perspective?
Sure. So sort of general questions about, how to find that right match and what to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a long answer in many ways, right? And I think what I would encourage, parents and caregivers to do is to really sit down and talk to students about what they're interested in, what they want to do, and then understand there may be many pathways to do that, and explore them yourselves or find resources to explore it. I think as I work with college admissions teams, as we do our own college admissions, we want to hear, sort of an honest presentation from a student about what they want. And that very well may be saying, I don't know yet what I want to do in my career. I kind of like my math class. I kind of like my social studies class. Saying that is perfectly fine. What I think doesn't work as well is feeling like you have to give an answer and trying to force yourself into it. So, if you're someone who's undecided, a liberal arts college may be a great place to go and explore for a couple of years. So, I think one is just understanding what the plan is, where you want to go, right? I think we see students who, for instance, may say that they want to be an engineer because they've always been told an engineer is a good job, and they don't quite know what engineering is, and they may not even be that passionate about it. And it's a hard sell to then go directly into an engineering school in that instance. So I think really a discussion about what the student wants, where they'd like to go is important, and making sure that that you're on the same page with them. So I think that's it. And then, there's obviously the financial factors, and Jonathan was referencing that. You may see a very high sticker price for a program where there may be financial aid available, but I would really encourage people to look at graduation rates of colleges and things like that. You may feel like, okay, I have a school I want to go to that's nearby. It doesn't cost that much in terms of tuition, but it may have a 35% graduation rate, something in that range, which may be perfect for someone. Someone may do very well at that school, and they may be able to succeed, whereas another school might maybe cost a little more but has a 90% graduation rate. It's a tough calculation, and I think it's something and that's where I would suggest talk to guidance counselors, talk to people who do college counseling about that to weigh those factors. So I don't know if I answered anything very clearly there, because I think that is a very kind of broad discussion, but I would say having a discussion about what a student really wants and measuring where they are when they go to apply, and then kind of finding the experts who can help work through the more nuanced conversations around financial assistance and graduation rates and those kind of things are fairly important.
Thank you. Wendy, Ms. Lindsay, would you like to pick up a little bit on looking at academic programs and choosing a college or choosing a program? We have a number of families with young people who are going to be first-generation college students. And so I know, as you talked about the programs that are available through the New England Board of Higher Ed, that alone is a lot to think about. But then to think even further about what type of program, or where would my child want to be, and how much do I need to be involved in that decision?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of students are unsure about what they're interested in studying. Some of them may know they want to be a doctor, and so they're planning to, study the sciences to prepare for a medical degree, perhaps. But a lot of students are not certain, so they may want to, as Mr. Gallagher said, start off in a liberal arts program, perhaps, to just sort of dip their toe in the water and to see what they're really interested in. Another suggestion is to talk to people who work in fields that they may be interested in, to get an idea, of what it's like to work as a particular kind of engineer, perhaps, or as a nurse, or as a doctor, or a scientist, to really, get an idea what it would be like to have a career like that. That would be a way of, sort of feeling out that type of a career in that way. With our program, the Regional Student Program, students do need to have a bit more of an idea about what they're going to study because when they apply to the college, if they're going to be eligible for the Regional Student Program or tuition break, they need to declare a program. So they need to indicate they want to study pharmacy, for example, or biomedical engineering, or whatever it may be, because that's how they become eligible for the tuition savings that is offered through the program. Certainly students can change their mind and switch their major down the road. A lot of students do that because they're not sure of what they're going to study coming in as a freshman. So that certainly, is understandable.
Okay, thank you. We've had a few questions, probably back to Jonathan, about CSS and FAFSA, the differences between them. One question is the CSS profile form part of the FAFSA form that was mentioned? And also, are there any specific financial aid funding cutoffs based on salary?
Yeah, thank you. The FAFSA and the CSS are different. So as I said, everybody files every college that you're applying to gets a FAFSA, and you file a FAFSA in order to be eligible for aid from the federal government, from the state governments, and oftentimes from the college itself. The CSS profile is college specific. So it is to be eligible for funds from a specific college. And there are over 400, I think, colleges nationwide who require it. And so, it just asks for more information than the FAFSA does so that the colleges know that they're giving out their money as wisely as possible. But it's separate from the FAFSA. You do file your FAFSA everywhere. And then in addition to that, the next level is kind of see who wants a CSS. And as far as the second question goes, no, there's not a cutoff. That's a very popular question. People always want to know if they make over a certain amount of money, does this mean they're not going to get any financial aid? And it's really a more complicated formula than that in terms of how much you're eligible for. They look at all sorts of things, not just what you make, but the number of people who live in your household and your number of dependents, and the state that you live in, and numbers of children who are going to be in college, and the age of the parents. All this stuff goes into the calculation. So I always recommend that people file a FAFSA even if they're not sure, if they don't think they're going to get anything, because there's really no downside, in my opinion, to filing. So it's not, as I said, it's not quite as simple as a cutoff. If you want to do a little bit of checking, you can go and do an EFC calculation, which is, you can go in and put in some information, take you about 5 minutes.
What's
Income.
EFC?
Oh, EFC, yes. EFC is your expected family contribution. So, when you do your FAFSA and you put in all your information, like your income and the number of people who live in your house, and et cetera, they're going to put that all through a standardized formula, and it's going to come up with the number that the federal government feels that you should be able to absorb for 1 year of college. And so that's important, because even though that's not necessarily what you're going to end up paying always, sometimes it is, but not always, it gives you an idea of how much aid you're eligible to receive. So a low EFC, a low expected family contribution, is good. And there are zero EFCs. There are many people who qualify for zero EFCs, which means not that they're not going to pay anything, but that they're eligible to receive financial aid to cover everything. But you can go and do an EFC calculator. It should take you about 5 minutes, and it'll give you an idea of what you're going to be expected to pay from the federal formula. Just to give you some sort of idea. That I only mention it because I think it's less confusing than actually looking at the formula. The formula is public, but it's like a government formula that hasn't changed since like 1968 or something, and it's it's long and it's complicated. So the easier way to do it is to use one of those calculators, and we have one on MIFA.org that you can view as well. So it's hard to answer financial aid questions without bringing up 8 new questions. So I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to other questions, I'd like to welcome our not final, but our 5th speaker, Tammy Feyminade, who was, as I said, proctoring or supervising SAT testing, was it? Okay. Welcome. Could you please let our parents know a little bit about you?
Yes, sure. Thank you, everyone. I was proctoring the PSAT today, and my last scholar just left, so I'm really excited about that. My name is Tammy Feyminade. I have served as the Assistant Director of Admissions both at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology as well as Dartmouth College. And I currently serve as the Director of College and Career Pathways at the Neighborhood House Charter School here in Dorchester, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Welcome. Well, we have some questions that you might want to answer. So I'm going to hit you with one right away, or a few. And we have parents with a wide range of understandings about the college process. We have some families whose children are going to be the first in their family, first gen, others who are pretty experienced but still want more information. But we've had a couple of questions about choosing the right college and figuring out the best fit. And also a question from a parent about the difference between a first gen and an immigrant family. So I wonder if you could tackle those for us.
Sure, thank you. Great questions. So in terms of the fit and match for choosing a university that is right for you or your scholar, one of the things that I really ask parents and my scholars to really dig into is what are the important characteristics? What are the attributes of a university or college that you value and would like to see evident in their community? And this could be through a virtual tour now that we're all virtual. This could be by walking on campus. This could be by speaking to a student or a faculty member. So all of those things are good ways to get a good feel for a college or university. The other way to think about choosing the best university for you is think about where do you want to be in 5, 8, 10 years, and think about how well can a institution best serve you in that pathway. And so a lot of times students and parents are bogged down with the question of whether or not I'm good enough for a college or university. And what I'd like to offer in this space is whether or not the college or university is good enough for you and what your dreams and aspirations what you want in your life, and how will those be manifested by or propelled by attending University X versus University Y. And so it takes a little bit more of that soul searching and digging, but I think those are really, really important attributes to sit with and discuss as a family. In terms of first generation versus immigrant families, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap because of the history of our country. And so I won't go down that rabbit hole, but one of the things that as a first generation college student, usually that is defined by the universities or colleges as one or both parents or guardians have not attended and graduated from a 4-year college or university. How does this attribute to your college application? It adds this layer of context that allows the admissions team to understand that you may have to go over a few more hurdles than our other counterparts who may come from a family where both parents graduated and persisted in pursuing higher education degrees, right? In terms of our immigrant families, what I would highlight there is that there is a huge focus on education. As a first generation immigrant student myself, what I find that is important for us to tease out the nuances is that our immigrant families tend to propel or persist in higher education more than our non-immigrant families. And so that is one key characteristic that the data and statistics show that we are a little bit ahead of the game in terms of that nuance. I hope that answers the question, but happy to dig further.
I do have a few others for you that came up in the Q&A. I'll read through them all if that's okay, and then you can tackle them how you'd like. One is COVID-19 has impacted the grading scales at some BPS schools. I know you're not in BPS, but as well as the learning environment, completely different. How are colleges adjusting to the admissions process or adjusting the admissions process to ensure the COVID-19 factors are taken into account? What is a good SAT score? And Wendy, you might want to chime in there as well. Could you please explain how you'd know when you're ready or what you want to do for college? Is SAT required this year? And what is the current state for universities requiring SAT, ACT scores, since many seem to be moving to an optional position?
Great questions, and I jotted down a few of them as you were going through, so feel free to remind me if I did not touch upon all of them. So the first one, the COVID-19 and living through a pandemic and how that has impacted our higher education admissions process. Yes, colleges are taking that into consideration. That is a #1 factor. And what is the sort of silver lining in all of this is that everyone is impacted by this pandemic in a way that has disrupted their instructional learning and the ability to express that learning in ways that we have done so in the past. It doesn't mean that learning is not happening. It just means that we haven't normed learning and those measures of learning as it relates to learning virtually or remotely. So with that said, the Common Application has a COVID-19 question. I encourage all students to tackle this question. It is deemed optional in the Common Application. It's about 250 words, but you could write a little bit more if you deemed it necessary. And the COVID-19 question is asking, how did the COVID-19 pandemic impact your life? And of course, it should be stated, obviously, we can't go to school anymore. We're not in person anymore, right? But there's a reason why admissions officers are keying into that question. And COVID-19 has been able to show us resiliency and grit of our scholars in the midst of a very tumultuous time, and demonstrating what that particular pandemic has done for you and your family is very important. And some people say that, do they want to hear about all the negative impact? If that is your story, absolutely share that truth, right? There's no reason to sugarcoat or hide away from the pains and the reality of living through a pandemic. Sometimes, though, there is that end of that rainbow. And while we are still living through this pandemic, showcasing to these colleges and universities that during the pandemic, it brought your family together. Family dinners now became important. Breakfast time became important. All the meals brought the family together, right? That is a positive characteristic that this pandemic, we have to take ownership there. Like, it brought us together in that way. Highlighting that as an important factor translate to you as a community member for your colleges and universities that you're applying to. So that is really important to highlight. Any of the positives or silver linings that you were able to explain or delineate of how it manifested in your household. So I encourage everyone to think deeply about that COVID-19 question and not just answer the obvious of like, I didn't get to see my teacher and I couldn't go to gym class. I had to learn through a screen. We know that. This question is asking you to go deeper. What did the pandemic do to you as a community member, and how did it transform your values so that when you are talking about your values on another campus or an institution, how would that translate? So that's one way of looking at that. The other question about what is a good SAT score? It depends on the institution that you're applying to. So every institution markets their SAT middle 50%, 25 percentile, and 75 percentile scores, and the average scores for each of their institutions. You want to be in the 75th percentile in order to feel that you are a competitive candidate for that university, right? So that is a metric that I use with my scholars. If you're falling in the 50%, could go either way. This is not a slam dunk. You know, this could be a high reach. It could be a high target, right? But it's definitely not a safety. In terms of the SAT or ACT requirements this year, from my conversations with my colleagues at Harvard, Bentley University, Brandeis, Dartmouth, it's truly test optional. It's not test optional, wink, not really test optional. It's really test optional. We understand that even me proctoring the PSAT today, 6 students in a classroom, 1 teacher, windows open, the noise, those are not normal test taking environments for us, for our scholars. So I know that we have thought about this in higher education as like, really, this is a test optional year. Will that sustain? Time will tell. But for right now, for our applicants applying for this cycle, it truly is test optional. And so reporting your score, if you have it and you're proud of it and you fit within that 75th percentile, great. If you don't fit in that 75th percentile, don't report it. It's okay.
75th percentile means that you scored higher than 75% of the people who took the test.
Yes, thank you for breaking that down. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, a question from a young person, I think. Could you please explain how you would know when you are ready or what you want to do for college?
Ooh, that is a great question about how I don't even know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still learning. So I want to say, if we look at everyone in society and we look at the people who quote unquote made it and the age that they made it, we're looking at everybody making it in that 40 plus range. So what I would say to anyone who is struggling with what are they going to study in college and how do you figure it out, you're going to know when it happens. It's for me, it wasn't in the classroom. It was actually me interning in the student affairs office at my institution. That's when I knew that I wanted to work with students and I cared deeply about how they persisted through the college and higher education experience. That was deeply what I cared about. And I turned that into, oh, what can I study? Okay, I'm gonna get my master's in higher education, right? But when I went to school, I started off pre-med, biochemistry. Then I had my pre-med classes and Dr. Wolf, bless his heart, rest in peace. I said no thank you after taking his general chemistry class, right? But I knew that through the trial and error and the college experience of being able to explore a lot of different classes, that was how I learned to say, this is not for me. So knowing very much what you do not like is just as important as finding out what you are in love with. So I would say pay attention to how you respond to the different classes that you're going to take. And the one thing I would say about the American pathway in terms of the higher education system here is we do not require you to declare your major until the second semester of your sophomore year. So very different from the European or UK or even the Caribbean system where whatever you say you're going to do, you're going to get that degree and hopefully do it, right? You have to declare that as a 16 or 17-year-old. And the American higher education system says, 16 and 17-year-olds don't even know what color shirt they're going to put on. You know, they don't really commit to things right now. So we're going to give them an opportunity to explore while they're on our campus and take a plethora of classes, usually called a core requirement, and then declare after having some lived experiences with those subject matters.
Excellent, thank you. We have some information that you parents will all receive at the end, but for now I can let you know that there is a list of all of the colleges that are test optional at fairtest.org. FAIRTEST, fairtest.org. Okay, Dr. Murray, thank you. I'll be coming back to you, Tammy Faye. There are a few more questions for you, but Dr. Murray, I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about scholarships. So could you please take it away?
Yes, I did. I also wanted to sort of dovetail on Tammy's comment about figuring out what to do. Only to say, if you're a college student, as she mentioned, think about what you like and what you don't like. Make use of one resource, which is LinkedIn. You can actually make use of the very powerful informational interview. Go out, find someone who's doing what you think you might want to do, email them, message them and say, hey, can you give me 15 minutes for a conversation? I may want to be a doctor. I may want to be an attorney. I may want to be an architect. Can you talk to me? That's one good way to actually get a feel for what it's like to do the thing. Yeah, I did want to mention scholarships. I want to take a little deeper dive only because as parents, if you're here as a parent, you're doing your due diligence, of course, trying to find out how to finance a way for your child to get a college degree. But I want to encourage you to actually let them put some skin in the game too. And by doing so, there are lots of scholarship awards out there available for students who are looking not only for STEM careers, but in other careers. I also want to mention that you shouldn't pay for this information. It's all free. Google is your friend. There are ways to go out and search for these scholarships that are available. I would love to see people apply for the NIH Undergraduate Scholarship Program Award, but I really would like to see students take advantage of all the money that's out there on the table, free money for them to go to college. I have experienced it myself. I have a daughter now who is in college, and there's institutional awards, there's state awards, there's private money. I just really want to strongly encourage you to, as you now think about the application cycle, those award cycles are starting as well, and many of them have deadlines in January and February. So now's the time for your students to be out there searching for awards that are applicable to them. I just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you, great points. We had a question about how important it is to have taken AP classes. Andrew, could you handle that, please?
Sure. Yeah, and I wanted to make one comment about the SAT too, because one thing, because we encounter this a lot. We have a lot of test optional partners at Posse, and we counsel on when to give a score. And I think sometimes students get hung up on whether their score is good or not. And that was a question: what is a good SAT score? And I would encourage parents and caregivers to recognize what if a student puts in their effort. Let's say they take the SAT, they got a 900. They take it again, they get a 1200. That's a good score. Tell them it's a good score. Celebrate it. Make sure they're proud of it. But if the school's average SAT score is a 1370, don't submit it. Right? So there's a difference between what's a good score and what you should submit. Because I think sometimes students say, I did really good, I want to submit this. I insist on submitting it, even if it works against them. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Could you talk a little bit more about that? Just
sure.
in terms of how
I mean, I think if you're a young person, right, and let's say you do take that, you get a 1250 on your SAT, right, and it might be the best score of any of your friends, and you're really proud of it.
Some folks might not know that much about SAT, so
Sure.
1250 means what?
So that means between your English language arts, or whatever they're calling that now, and your math, combined. So let's say maybe you got a 600 on your math and a 600 on your reading and the SAT for a 1200 combined. You know, and it can range from 200 to 1600, right? Is the scale of scores. So 1200 is a lot closer to 1600, and it might, you know, of all your friends, it may be the best, and you may have worked really hard on it, and you should be proud of it. That's a good score. But again, if then you're applying to a college where the average SAT is higher, you just don't want to submit it to that college. It doesn't mean it's not good. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be proud of it. Just don't. It's not going to help you. So don't do it. And I think that's what.
So then, what should students do?
So if it's a test optional school, just leave it. If you have to provide it, it also doesn't mean you're not getting out, right? Because if the average SAT is a 1400, half of the people have scores lower. So it doesn't mean you can't get in. But if you have the option, don't submit it. And right now, this year in particular, more often than not, you'll have that option because schools are, with COVID, are not asking for the SATs. And I did see a question about whether this will be permanent. It seems like there is a trend generally to more test optional schools. When it comes to APs, you know, when you apply to college, schools want to see that you challenged yourself, for sure. And so I think students, caregivers, parents should be thinking about, you know, the highest level class a student can take and do pretty well. So if you think you can succeed in APs, if the option is available to you at your school, I would encourage you to advocate to take them. I mean, if you fail an AP course, that is not going to help you. So you want to think about whether you can do it. But most students can do well. But you know, again, find a guidance counselor, someone who you can talk to about this, and figure out what the right level is, right? Because maybe it's right for you to take one AP course in your junior year, and if you do well, take 2 or 3 in your senior year. Maybe you can take 4 in your junior year. It's quite a range. But I think colleges are looking for growth. So if you come in and you're taking a lot of college prep level courses and you're doing well, step up into some honors. If you start doing well in those, step up into AP. Show that growth, show that you take challenges when they're presented, show that you take opportunities. I think that's what colleges are looking for. They're not going to say someone with 5 APs versus 3 APs. There's no hard line there. It's more that someone, when the opportunity to take the more challenging course was presented, they took it and did well.
Thank you. Tammy Faye, I'm going to come back to you. How can scholars distinguish themselves among their peers? And then a couple of questions in Q&A. How about SAT subject test requirements? And is having a child enrolled in ELL, ESL going to harm your child when applying for scholarships or making it harder for them to be selected? That's a lot. And some of the rest of you, if you'd like to chime in, can, but I'll start with you, Tammy Faye.
Great. So I'll start with the ELL and ESL question of whether or not having that demarcation on your academic record would hurt you in applying for scholarships. For scholarships, no. I am a strong proponent of our students who are categorized as ESL or ELL because they bring a lens to the university or college that they're applying to that other students don't bring. And so we talk about that diversity factor of what can you bring to that community. And so being bilingual, trilingual is absolutely a plus and never a minus, particularly at colleges and universities in the United States. In terms of the subject test requirements, I believe if a school has said that they're completely test optional, that also includes the subject tests as well. But every university has taken on a very subjective nuance to what test optional means. And so I encourage when you're looking and developing your college list that you look very specifically at what those requirements are, because they could be test optional for the SAT, ACT, but perhaps still have the subject test requirements. And so you just want to be very cognizant of what those requirements are and making sure that you can meet those requirements for your application. In terms of how does one distinguish themselves in their application? So when we evaluate your application, we are looking at 3 different factors, right? The first one is academic. This is a compilation of your GPA. This is a compilation of the rigor of courses that you've taken. We talked about APs and how it is important to challenge yourself. It also includes your standardized testing. So whether or not you have ACT or SAT scores or subject test scores or even AP exam scores, all of that tells a story about your academic candidacy. So that's the first category. The second category in which you are evaluated upon is called the extracurricular rating. The extracurricular rating is, what do you do outside of the school day? How do you spend your time outside of the classroom? A few years ago, it was limited to joining all the clubs, being a 3-letter varsity athlete. Nowadays, it's, are you working after school? Do you take care of grandma? Do you take care of other siblings after school? How are you spending your time has uniquely been broadened to encompass the true experience of our scholars. So take advantage of that, because all of those would contribute to a stellar extracurricular rating. And then the last one is where you really can distinguish yourself, and it's called intellectual vitality. Intellectual vitality is how have you pursued a particular passion, interest, that you can't develop anymore in the classroom. How have you taken that and translated it outside of the classroom? So that could look like, you know, I'm working with someone in a research lab over the summers because I'm interested in STEM. It could look like, you know, I'm looking to become a doctor, so I'm volunteering or shadowing doctors at a local hospital. These are passion projects that you focus on that are very singularly niche. So if it is very particular to what interests you are, you know, really invigorated by, inspired by, and how have you translated that into something outside of the classroom experience. So with these passion projects, that's how you can distinguish yourself. So for my parents and caregivers, I always encourage my scholars are, you know, you really love digesting the media, the morning news every day. You should probably start a blog. Share your opinion with the world. Create a free website, and 250 words, you know, once a week, twice a month, to develop that passion project, to work that muscle of how you are showcasing what you've done outside of the classroom assignments, right? So passion projects aren't my science teacher or my AP biology teacher gave me this assignment and I'm doing it to the best of my ability. No, that falls under academic rating. This is, ooh, I learned something in AP biology that I really, really love. And now I really want to do more of that one thing. And I found ways to explore it outside of the classroom or academic environment. So this could be taking, for example, let's say cognitive science or neuroscience course through Coursera.org. That's the free database of millions of different courses that anybody can take, adults, young and old, right? And so that's one way to discover and sustain a passion project beyond the academic setting. Starting a blog, doing a podcast, having a YouTube channel, whatever it is that you're really kind of gets you going, sharing that, how are you sharing those talents with the world is really the answer to that question. And that's really how you distinguish yourself, because everything else is very cookie cutter. The academics is based off of your academic environment. What are you presented with and what opportunities have you taken in that environment? The extracurricular is very similar. How have you taken advantage of what your community, that could be your family community, your home community, or your school community? The intellectual vitality piece is where you take it a step further and you say, this is who I am, and this is what makes me tick. And I want to share that with you, and this is how I'm sharing that with you. So I hope those give you guys some ideas of how to distinguish yourself in this very hard application process.
All right, thank you so much. Hold on, there are a few more in the Q&A. Open questions. Oh, could we please provide the free course website again? We're going to be sharing all of that information with you at the end via email. So rest assured, we will get that information to you. How would you write your college application essay, and how do you know what to write? Okay, Tammy Faye, I'm going to give you a break right now and ask Ms. Lindsay if you could talk a little bit about that.
Actually, the last skills workshop focused on that very thing, how to write your college application essay. So I would encourage people to look on the website and review that webinar, because I think that would probably be the best way to get the information about how to write your college application essay. But I think, as Tammy spoke about, you really need to speak authentically from your own experience as a student about what your journey has been up to that point, and what your passions are, what you care about, and what motivates you. So those are all important things to touch on. But I do definitely encourage you to watch the webinar. I watched it last week, and there's some great information there and tips.
Thank you. Going back to the NEBI program, what is the application process for that?
It's actually very straightforward. There is no separate application for the program. So basically, students fill out their application for admission to the school that they want to attend through the program. And then they write on their admissions application the program that they're planning to study that they're eligible for. And then once they're accepted, their eligibility is basically automatic. So it's a very streamlined process. It's not part of the financial aid application process that you go through for other types of assistance, financial assistance.
Okay, thank you. And Andrew, applying to Posse, what's that process like?
Sure. So we work with all of the public schools, district or charter in the cities, really any city that is connected to Boston on the commuter rail, and any or most community-based organizations that work with juniors and seniors in high school in those communities. And so students have to get nominated for a Posse scholarship. At school, it's usually by a guidance counselor or at a contact at a community-based organization. But students can certainly play a proactive role in that. If it's something that they're interested in, they can go to that guidance counselor, they can go to the community-based organization and say, I'm really interested in this, and what can I do to get hooked in? If they can't find the right person, they can also reach out to us and say, hey, I'm really interested in Posse. How do I get involved? And we can maybe point them in the right direction. So, you got to go through that nomination process. And then once that starts in the spring of junior year, it kind of rolls right before senior year starts. So yeah, go to the guidance office, check in, or if not, I can put the website in the chat, and folks can come on the website or send us an email, and we can get them connected.
And which are the schools that participate?
The colleges?
Colleges. Mm-hmm.
So right now for Boston, we are recruiting for Bucknell University, Union College, Bryn Mawr, and Center College in Kentucky. And we are hopefully bringing on 2 new partners soon. So keep an eye on that list.
Thank you. Okay, back to Tammy Faye. Would a passion project only be things like blogs, etc., or could it be participating in summer camps that highlight your passion, such as a neuroscience camp?
So absolutely, doing any of those summer programs, like for example, Harvard Medical School's Project Success would be another way to express a particular passion project. One of the things that I always tell students that there needs to be a healthy balance of programs that already exist that help propel you forward and self-initiated projects, right? And so absolutely going to these summer programs gives you sort of the footing, gives you the foundational knowledge that you need within a particular niche. And that's important to explore and be guided and facilitated by these summer programs or other types of research programs. But it's also important to answer the question, how am I going to demonstrate these my passion outside of summer programs or 2-week internship programs or things of that nature? And I think being able to express yourself in whatever form that you feel most comfortable, whether it be written, auditory through voice in a podcast, or even video through a YouTube channel, all of those kind of culminate to a story about your passion project. So absolutely, summer programs do help with that, but it's important to also look at things that are a little bit more unique to just something that you did that really speaks to that passion project.
Thank you. Dr. Murray, since your daughter is in college now, could you talk a little bit about how you prepared her for the search?
Sure. Well, the first thing is you obviously can't wait until you're a senior to start thinking about college. So if you have young students who are in their first few years of high school and college is on their agenda, have them start to think about now preparing themselves for that. And also the junior year is probably much more important, at least in my experience, than the senior year, to start preparing for college and looking for potential scholarships and awards and things of that nature. The senior year, I think there's a real focus on just graduating, and they find that their time and their interest and their focus is not actually on the next thing. So getting them prepared early is really important. Also, as they think about schools that they may want to attend and having college visits and of that nature, try to find out what type of institutional awards are available at those schools. So my daughter I live in Maryland, she goes to a state school. Most of her college funding is being funded through state and institutional grants, and that are paying about 85% of her tuition. I saw one of the questions earlier about how to help your child decide what their dream college would be. I think that has to be a mutual dream if they're expecting you to be the funding mechanism for that. I started early to have both my youngest daughter, who's in college now, and my oldest daughter, who also went to the nursing school and went at University of Maryland, had them understand that they must have skin in the game, that I'm going to back them up to the fullest extent, but I'm not just going to be the sole funding mechanism for getting them through. And they both took it to heart. That was the one thing I was trying to impress on parents earlier when I was mentioning to go out and look early for scholarship awards for their students.
Thank you. I was thinking back to when my daughters applied, and it's been a while now, but one thing I would say to parents and students is Many colleges require an essay, and it's not something you want to do quickly. So I encouraged my daughters to write drafts during their junior year or the summer before their senior year, and then put it aside, and then they could come back to it and look at it with fresh eyes. Because if you're caught up in the moment as you're writing, you don't always see the mistakes, but there are also points could be made a little more clearly. And if you go away from it and come back to it, you'll see that. So take time with those essays. Do 3 or 4 drafts and have a guidance counselor or a trusted other person, an English teacher or someone else, read over it and give some suggestions. Don't have them write it, but have them take a look and give suggestions. And then things are different now with COVID. You can't do the same kinds of tours and visits on college campuses, but perhaps you could, if it's local, you could take the T to a campus and walk around, even though you're not having a formal tour. If you have a car, you might drive if it's not too far and drive around a campus, because it helps to see a campus in person. At least it does for me. A lot of colleges are now doing virtual tours so that you can sit at a computer, either at, well, some libraries are open, not all, but on your phone or a laptop, and do a virtual tour, which is helpful. But if you can, if the college is close enough and you can walk around or drive around, that's helpful too, to get a sense of it, because that's where your child is going to spend 2 or 4 years. So it helps to see it and get a feel for it. We have about 10 minutes left, and one of the things that I guess is our closing question, let's see, and it is, could you share a small piece of advice, and I just gave mine, or a closing comment to the parents and caregivers? And since since Daryl, Dr. Murray, you're on my screen right now, I'm going to ask you to start.
Yeah, I would just want to continue to emphasize to parents to look very hard for information for funding their students' college career, but to also have them play a role, to be a self-advocate for their not only getting into college, but also funding it. It will not only help them understand the intricacies of getting the money, but it also gives them an opportunity to have some responsibility in not only paying for it, but also getting there. And again, as you've mentioned, start early. That's the wisest advice. Start early.
And don't panic if your child is a senior.
No.
It's never too late. It's a little easier. It's a little less stressful the earlier you start, but it doesn't mean, oh, gee, my child's a senior, that means it's too late and I have to give up. No, it's not that way at all.
Well, I mean, to follow that, I didn't start until my senior year, and I managed to get in college for another 10 years after. So it can happen. If you're, don't fret, you can still make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, who'd like to go next? I'll go in the order I see you on my screen. So Wendy Lindsay, could you go next?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I think one thing we haven't mentioned is the option of going to a community college first. And that is a really viable option for a lot of students. One, it's a way of paying lower tuition for a couple of years. And it's also a way for students to get some experience with taking college courses. Maybe they're not quite ready to launch into a bachelor's degree program. So starting off at a community college can be a really great option for some students. So I wanted to mention that and just say that, college is possible for everyone, and it can take many different forms and many different avenues to get there. But definitely believe it's possible for your students.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Jonathan Hughes, I see you next.
Sure. Well, this is something I mentioned at the beginning, actually, and this is something that I want to mention again before I leave, is that there are free resources available to help you out through this process. So you can reach out to me, but you can reach out to your high school guidance counselors. And in fact, we spend a lot of time talking about scholarships here, and everyone loves scholarships and is always interested to know where they can get scholarships. And I just wanted to make sure that we talked about there's different levels of scholarships, right? So you can get scholarships from the college, you can get national scholarships from national organizations, you can apply for local scholarship. And so for local scholarship, high school guidance council office, it's usually the best option available for the best information. For national scholarships, they can do a search engine. And again, it was said, but I'll mention it again, never pay to have a scholarship search done. And they can start applying for scholarships as early as now. So this kind of dovetails with all that is to start early, right? You can start early now, even applying for scholarships, maybe contacting some teachers for letters of recommendation. Anything that you can do now is going to defuse that stress the closer that you get to application time or to financial aid time. So that's my closing bit of advice, and look out for free help as well.
Great, thank you. Andrew Gallagher.
Yeah, I'll kind of follow up on that to really encourage folks to use resources. Whether it's the college search and application process or the continuing financial aid process, there's just so much that goes into it, and finding experts in the field makes a big difference. It's what I do every day when it comes to financial aid. I'm no expert. I have to find people sometimes to help me with the tricky situations. And one resource that I think we haven't mentioned is the financial aid offices at these schools. I think sometimes folks don't realize that people get into that profession and work in those offices because they want to help students go to college. And if you have a unique situation or you feel like you can't get an answer, you can go right to the financial aid office and say, hey, I have this tricky situation. Can you advise me, or can you provide some help? And I will also echo that the idea of it, particularly for science interested students, that it's not too late, because I know science can, sometimes have this sequential learning, and you may go to apply to a program and they say, well, you didn't take calculus, so you can't get into this program right now. Maybe you can't get into that particular college or program right then. You have to start somewhere else, but it doesn't mean that you can't be a doctor or an engineer, down the line. It might mean that your path is different. And so, find folks who can advise you on the path that allows you to pursue your passion whenever that passion develops, and whenever you sort of are able to provide evidence of your readiness to succeed in that field.
Great point, thank you. Tammy Faye?
Great. I love this question. So I think if I were to tease it out into two different parts, one would be for the parents and caregivers, and then one would be for the scholars themselves. For the parents and caregivers, I would begin early. It is never too early to start thinking about what could be the pathway. What are your scholars interested in? And how do you nourish that passion, and being their biggest cheerleader in that passion pursuit, right? And then thinking about how are you as a parent or caregiver modeling the behavior that you want to have them emulate. So how are you tapping into your network to showcase how they are networking within LinkedIn, networking within their communities, their church communities, their family communities? That's really important. So they need to see you doing that same work so that they can feel confident, oh, I can do that too. And the last piece for me is making sure that you're finding other allies in that passion pursuit, because I understand as a parent and caregiver, you're not going to have all the answers at your fingertips, but being able to rely on other experts, as that was said earlier, or other mentors that could mentor you and mentor your scholar in sort of a dual approach, kind of a twofer, if you will. It is a wonderful experience to be able to grow in the passion with your scholar, and experiencing their passion and that inspiration, I think, really strengthens the relationship between the parent and the scholar, or the caregiver and the scholar.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you all. I want a few closing remarks. Parents, don't go yet. We would love it if you would please answer the poll that you're going to see shortly, and answer those poll questions. They will help us in our planning. We also want to remind you that this webinar was recorded, and it will be posted on the BSCP and DICP websites. It usually takes a few days for those to be posted, but they will be. And also a reminder that a packet of supplemental documents will be emailed to the address you registered with by Friday of this week. And I want to thank you so much, panelists. Mr. Andrew Gallagher, Mr. Jonathan Hughes, Ms. Wendy Lindsay, Ms. Tammy Feyminade, and Dr. Daryl Murray. Thank you so much for your time and expertise. Thank you, all of you participants who joined us this evening, and a hearty thank you to Dr. Joan Reed and the BSCP staff. I wish you all well. Please stay safe and be well, and take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.